Hey there, folks. Santee at the Arizona Ghost Raiders here. We got some mail. Hey, Santee, can you do a video on Charles Goodnight? Alvin Sanchez. Yeah. We can do that. When researching the history of the Old West, you are going to stumble upon Charles Goodnight. I mean, there's no two ways about it. In fact, all trails probably lead to his front door.
Well, if it ain't the legendary Charlie Goodnight, scout who's never been lost.
Charles was born into a farming family in Macoupin County, Illinois on March 5, 1836. 4 years later, his overworked father died from pneumonia, and eventually his mom remarried. The farm was not doing as well as hoped, and Texas was a new and fertile land to the United States that begged settlement. Riding on horseback the entire trip, 10-year-old Charlie accompanied the family to the Lone Star State. Once he arrived, he worked a number of odd jobs and also learned the cowboy trade. Texas was a rough place during that period, and Charles was fighting Comanche Indians, which eventually led to his joining the Texas Rangers. He was popular because of his scouting abilities. Finding water was a specialty, which comes in mighty handy in an arid landscape.
See, Mr. Goodnight, we could all use a bath. Are there any good springs along this route? Well, yes, now that you mention it, there's an excellent spring about 300 miles north.
Once, during a fierce battle, Goodnight got hit with an arrow. Had it not been for his buffalo robe blocking the arrow, he would have died.
Off we're gonna shuffle off to Buffalo.
After serving in the Civil War, Goodnight returned to Texas and started herding the cattle that had been running around partying while everyone else was fighting. He and his good friend Oliver Loving realized that the herds had to be moved to Byers, which in this case was the Army, and New Mexico was the chosen spot to put those stakes with legs. Their cattle drive from the Brazos River to Fort Sumner in 1866 would create what would be known as the Goodnight-Loving Trail. While in New Mexico, the two formed a partnership with rancher John Chisholm, and with his help, the famous trail would eventually extend all the way to Wyoming.
Now, the chuck wagon was the first Meals on Wheels invented to feed cowboys. A lot of folks give credit to Charles Goodnight for doing this.
Hey, thanks, Kent. Although Charles Goodnight is credited for this invention of putting a chuck box at the rear of a wagon, the mobile kitchen idea had been in use for generations. On the 1867 drive, Oliver Loving developed gangrene from a Comanche arrow. He managed to escape the ambush and make it to New Mexico, where he later died. Goodnight was extremely saddened by the passing of his friend and honored his wish to be buried back in Texas. Helping with the research today, we have Brevin Engelson. Take it away, Brevin.
An interesting fact about Charles Goodnight is that during his stint as a Texas Ranger, he developed a severe case of measles. This case led to him having significant hearing loss, which proved vital during his first or second cattle drive. His crew had to tell him where the rattlesnakes were because he was unable to hear them.
Mr. Goodnight, be careful, there's a snake. What? You've got a snake. We ain't got no cake. This here's a cattle drive. This ain't no bakery. Oh, I quit.
He had the keenest eyesight out of anybody he had ever met, other than one Tonkawa Indian. This is a quote directly from Charles Goodnight.
Thanks, Brevin. Another interesting note, Charles was challenged to a duel once. However, the man never showed up for it. You Sour Mash?
Yes, I am, sir.
I understand you're the man to see to buy cattle.
Well, I have cattle for sale.
Yeah, whereabouts?
Well, there's some over in that pen over there. There's the 15 head that I've got available right now today.
Oh yeah, I saw those. But those are really skinny. I mean, one turned towards me and it just disappeared. So I don't know if I want those, right?
Those are really lean beef. I've imported them from Japan. They're Kobe beef. They're specialty.
Oh.
They're high demand in San Francisco.
No, Charles Goodnight never dealt with Kobe beef. but he did crossbreed the American buffalo with his cattle to offer a new type of meat. Although it wasn't a success, he did save many bison from being hunted to extinction, which helped replenish the herds we have today. Eventually, Goodnight's success would lead to him creating the J.A. Ranch in the Panhandle of Texas. In those later years, he continued to help fine-tune the cattle industry, as well as establishing a college and moonlighting as a banker and a newspaper man. All fascinating jobs, considering he couldn't read or write. Charles Goodnight passed away on December 12, 1929, at age 93. The man's amazing life inspired the Lonesome Dove story, which turned into arguably one of the greatest westerns ever made. So folks, the next time you cut into that ribeye or that porterhouse, I want you to think about Charles Goodnight, Oliver Loving, John Chisholm. Those ranchers were the trailblazers of the cattle industry. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, we have a Patreon page. For $3 a month, you can be a member and see exclusive content like bloopers, and extra trivia, and behind the scenes. Anyway, that's it for another episode. Thanks for watching. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you on down the trail.
Right now, I've got 15 head over in that corral there.
Oh, I saw those. Hey, wait, those are too skinny. One turned sideways, like right towards me. Not sideways, but right towards me. I guess it's sideways to somebody. Should we try this again?
I think you screwed it up.
All right.